Welcome back to Choose Better Living. Today, I want to talk with you about a book that has the power to change the way we think about thinking itself. The book is Think Again, written by organizational psychologist Adam Grant. This is not a book about learning more facts. It is a book about learning how to let go of ideas that no longer serve us. And in a world that changes faster than ever, that skill might be one of the most important abilities you can develop. Think Again is a practical and insightful book that helps improve judgment and sharpen thinking. Throughout the book, Adam Grant explores different dimensions of human thought. He explains why it is so important to question outdated beliefs. He shows us how fixed thinking can quietly limit our decisions. And most importantly, he offers concrete ways to break free from mental rigidity. The knowledge in this book can help you become a deeper thinker. It can guide you toward better decisions in both your career and your personal life. Before diving deeper into the ideas, it helps to understand who Adam Grant is and why his voice matters. Adam Grant was born in 1981. For 7 consecutive years, he has been recognized as one of the top professors at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. According to HR Magazine, he is one of the 10 most influential organizational psychologists in the world. He was also named among the 40 best business professors in the world under the age of 40. Adam Grant earned his bachelor degree from Harvard University. He later completed his doctoral degree at the University of Michigan. Over the years, he has delivered talks and provided consulting services for organizations such as Google, the National Football League, Johnson & Johnson, and the United Nations. In addition to his academic work, Adam Grant writes as an independent contributor for the New York Times. He is also the host of the podcast Work Life, produced by TED. His first book, Give and Take, became a New York Times bestseller. It was translated into 30 languages and named one of the best books of the year by Amazon, Financial Times, and the Wall Street Journal in 2013. His second book, Originals, also topped the New York Times bestseller list. Then came Think Again, published in 2021. The book was selected by The Washington Post as one of the best nonfiction books of the year. It has been praised by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Bloomberg as one of the most practical and valuable books in cognitive psychology. From the moment it was released, readers responded strongly to the usefulness of its ideas. The book is structured into 4 major sections. It begins with Rethinking Yourself, which focuses on updating personal beliefs. It then moves into Rethinking Others, which explores how to open the minds of people around you. The third section looks at rethinking groups, showing how to build communities that support lifelong learning. The final section addresses how to escape tunnel vision when thinking about plans, careers, and long-term decisions. To open the book, Adam Grant does not begin with theory. He begins with the story. In 1949, a massive wildfire broke out in a place called Man Gulch. A team of 15 smoke jumpers was sent in by plane to contain the fire. Their plan was straightforward. They would dig a trench to isolate the fire and redirect it toward an area with less fuel. But things did not go as planned. The fire suddenly exploded across the valley and rushed directly toward the team. The flames rose over 30 feet high. They spread at a speed fast enough to destroy everything across a distance equal to 2 football fields in less than a minute. In a desperate attempt to survive, the firefighters ran uphill. They climbed a steep slope covered with knee-high grass on rough terrain. They were less than 200 meters from the top. Safety was close. And then the team leader did something that shocked everyone. Instead of continuing to run, he stopped. He bent down. He pulled out a box of matches. And he lit the grass in front of him on fire. He then shouted for the others to follow him into the burned area he had just created. No one listened. To them, it looked like madness. Why would anyone start another fire while being chased by flames? In the end, only the leader, whose name was Dodge, and 2 other men survived. All the remaining members of the team died. So why did Dodge survive when the others did not? After the disaster, Researchers studied the event for years. They eventually concluded that the deaths were not caused by lack of courage or effort. They were caused by deeply ingrained mental reflexes. Firefighters are trained to extinguish fires, not start them. They are trained to run away from flames, not toward them. Even experts who spent their lives studying wildfires had never imagined that survival could come from lighting a fire to create a safe zone. The two survivors later testified that they had never been trained to escape a fire this way. According to Adam Grant, the only reason Dodge survived was his ability to redefine the situation. He broke free from rigid thinking. He thought beyond what his training had taught him. This story leads us naturally to another familiar example: the boiling frog experiment. You may have heard it before. If you drop a frog into boiling water, it immediately jumps out. But if you place a frog in warm water and slowly increase the temperature, the frog will stay until it dies. Most of us accept this story without question. We rarely challenge its accuracy. However, the reality is very different. To test this belief, Adam Grant examined the actual scientific evidence behind the boiling frog idea. The results were the opposite of what most people believe. When a frog is thrown into boiling water, it suffers severe burns and often cannot escape. But when a frog is placed in gradually heated water, it is more likely to survive. As soon as the temperature becomes unbearable, the frog jumps out. This experiment reveals something important. When we hear a story that sounds logical, we often accept it as truth. We do not stop to question it. We do not check the evidence. Many of the beliefs we hold with confidence may not reflect objective reality. And this kind of thinking can trap us in mental habits that no longer serve us. Adam Grant puts it clearly. Most of us take pride in our knowledge and expertise. We are deeply attached to our beliefs and opinions. That approach works well in a stable world, where success comes from sticking to proven ideas. But the problem is that we no longer live in a stable world. We live in a world that changes rapidly. And in this world, we must spend just as much time rethinking as we do thinking. Yet human nature pushes us in the opposite direction. We prefer holding on to old beliefs rather than accepting new ones. We defend what we already know instead of questioning it. Most of us feel uncomfortable when we are forced to think too much. Deep thinking often creates tension. It makes us question what feels familiar and safe. Rethinking challenges a core belief many of us hold. It asks us to accept that truth can change. It asks us to accept that what we once believed to be right may no longer be right today. Changing the way we think is not easy, but it is absolutely necessary if you want to survive and adapt in a world that keeps shifting. According to Adam Grant, rethinking is just as important as learning new ideas or developing intelligence. It deserves equal attention. And this is exactly where the first part of the book begins, the part that focuses on rethinking yourself. From here, Adam Grant turns inward. He explores how rethinking starts inside our own minds, long before it shows up in conversations with others. He explains that in everyday interactions, we do not respond randomly. Most of the time, we rely on a small set of familiar thinking modes. In this first section, he introduces 4 of them. The first is the mindset of a preacher. This mindset appears when our beliefs or values feel threatened. In these moments, we instinctively defend our position. We lecture. We argue. We try to convince others that we are right. The second is the mindset of a prosecutor. This shows up when we notice flaws in someone else's opinion. We search for evidence to prove that they are wrong and that we are right. The goal is not understanding. The goal is winning. The third is the mindset of a politician. This mindset emerges when we want approval. We focus on being liked. We adjust our words to gain support, even if it means compromising honesty. The fourth is the mindset of a scientist. This is the mindset Adam Grant encourages us to build. When you think like a scientist, you remain humble. You recognize the limits of your knowledge. Instead of defending beliefs, you test them. You form hypotheses. You examine data. You update your understanding based on evidence. You treat conversations with others and experiences in the world as ongoing experiments. Every mindset has strengths and weaknesses, but the scientific mindset gives you the best foundation for rethinking. Thinking like a scientist helps you develop intellectual humility. It trains you to question information in a healthy and objective way. It keeps you from rushing to conclusions when facts are incomplete or unclear. This mindset prevents you from treating your own understanding as absolute truth. That is what happens when you become a preacher. It also keeps you from obsessively trying to change others or trap them in rigid judgments. That is what happens when you become a prosecutor. When we rely too heavily on the preacher, prosecutor, or politician mindset, we fall into cognitive traps. Two of the most common traps are confirmation bias and desirability bias. Confirmation bias means you only notice what supports what you already believe. Desirability bias means you see what you want to see. Most of us carry both biases. Bias does not just limit intelligence. It distorts judgment and leads us toward poor decisions. Adam Grant also identifies a deeper and more dangerous bias that lives inside many of us. It is the bias of believing that we have no bias. This bias convinces us that we are more objective than others. Ironically, intelligent people are especially vulnerable to this illusion. The smarter we are, the easier it becomes to overlook our own blind spots. The book then introduces an important relationship between confidence and competence. When confidence is high but competence is low, we encounter what is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. You often see this in sports fans who believe they understand the game better than the coach on the field. On the opposite end is the imposter experience. This happens when competence is high, but confidence is low. When you experience this, you feel unworthy of your achievements. Even when others recognize your abilities and efforts, you dismiss their praise. You interpret success as luck rather than skill. This distorted self-perception quietly undermines growth. In this section, Adam Grant also explains how you can continue learning while projecting confidence. He shows how to stay decisive without becoming arrogant. Through real examples, he demonstrates how humility and strength can coexist. From there, the book moves into its second part, the section focused on rethinking with others and opening other people's minds. Adam Grant emphasizes the power of thought experiments and open-ended questions. These tools help produce better answers and healthier conversations. He shows how hostile interactions can be softened, not by arguing harder, but by changing how we frame disagreement. When someone becomes aggressive and you treat the situation like a battle, you tend to respond by attacking or retreating. But when you see disagreement as a dance instead of a fight, your choices begin to change. You might step aside instead of pushing forward. You might shift attention away from the disagreement itself and toward how the conversation is unfolding. The more angry and hostile the other person becomes, the more curiosity and care you should express. Not weakness. Understanding. Adam Grant offers practical language for moments when discussions turn confrontational. You might say that you feel disappointed by how the conversation is going. You might ask whether the other person feels frustrated too. You might clarify whether they see any value at all in your proposal. You might express confusion about their reaction and ask sincere questions rather than issuing defenses. If you are facing intense conflict, another powerful strategy is slowing down. Ask calm questions. For example, ask what evidence would be needed to change their mind. If the answer is nothing, then the conversation has reached a dead end. At that point, continuing to argue only makes things worse. Adam Grant advises choosing silence. Not surrender, but restraint. This section also explores the art of listening as a tool for positive influence. Listening is not simply talking less. It is a skill that begins with asking better questions. True listening starts when you care more about the other person's concerns than proving your own status or judgment. It is not about winning. It is about understanding. From interpersonal conversations, the book expands again and looks at collective thinking. Adam Grant discusses how to handle complex issues where agreement feels impossible. He explores how to teach students to question textbooks rather than memorize them. He shares insights on building healthy workplace cultures. Social media exposes us to diverse perspectives, but it also floods us with misinformation, noise, and distortion. Exposure to different viewpoints does not automatically lead to rethinking. In fact, it can intensify emotional thinking. We question whether other views are morally acceptable. We attack their logic. We judge harshly and become more extreme. Simply presenting two opposing views does not guarantee truth. Sometimes it creates new problems. Psychologists describe this tendency as binary bias. Binary bias pushes us to simplify complex issues into two opposing sides. Robert Benchley captured this tendency perfectly when he said that there are only two kinds of people in the world: those who believe there are two kinds of people and everyone else. Adam Grant argues that when facing any complex problem, we need multiple lenses. These lenses must be grounded in verified scientific evidence and reliable data. Only when we rely on objective information can we help others reconsider their views. The same pattern appears clearly in education. What we read in textbooks is not always correct. But in the way education is often structured today, students are trained to treat textbooks as unquestionable truth. They absorb information passively. They are rarely encouraged to explore further or challenge what they read. Following the curriculum closely may help students earn high grades. But high grades do not guarantee success later in life or in a career. Adam Grant discovered something important during his years of teaching. In one experiment, he divided his students into small groups. He asked each student to record a podcast episode. Their task was to challenge a widely accepted idea. They had to defend a position opposite to the traditional view or question principles that were taught in class. The results were revealing. The students who consistently earned top grades were often perfectionists. They performed extremely well academically. They stood out among their peers in school. But later, in their professional lives, many of them did not stand out at all. This finding suggests something uncomfortable but important. Across many professions, grades are not a reliable predictor of long-term success. Academic excellence often rewards familiar thinking. It rewards mastering existing frameworks. But professional success depends on the ability to rethink, adapt, and improve continuously. Another common barrier appears among top students and highly capable professionals. They are often less willing to take risks. They are afraid of making mistakes. According to Adam Grant, fear of being wrong is one of the biggest obstacles to rethinking, and it affects all of us. At its core, education is not about collecting information. It is not about memorizing facts. Education is a process of learning how to question. It is about challenging outdated information. It is about choosing renewal over routine. It is about sharpening the mind and learning how to see deeper. From education, the book naturally extends into the workplace. Rethinking is not only a personal skill, it is a collective ability, and it depends heavily on organizational culture. Rethinking thrives in environments that value learning. These are workplaces where people help one another grow. They question existing methods. They stay curious about new ideas. They explore the unknown together. On a personal level, each of us needs humility. We must accept that we are always learning. At the same time, we need responsibility. We must be willing to review our own actions and decisions honestly. From here, Adam Grant brings the conversation toward a final and critical theme: escaping tunnel vision. When we invest deeply in a plan and realize it is not working, our first reaction is rarely to rethink. Instead, we often double down. We commit more time. We invest more money. We push harder. This pattern is known as escalation of commitment. Escalation of commitment describes our tendency to cling to decisions that are no longer relevant. We continue pouring resources into failing projects because changing direction feels like admitting defeat. Real-world examples are everywhere. Entrepreneurs stick to strategies that are clearly failing. Team owners and coaches in professional basketball keep investing in expensive contracts that drain time, energy, and money. Career decisions are especially vulnerable to another trap. Adam Grant calls this trap a fixed identity. It often begins in childhood. When we are young, adults ask us a familiar question: what do you want to be when you grow up? Our answers are innocent. They are shaped by family traditions. They are influenced by our surroundings. They are not tested by experience or time. Yet many of us grow up treating those early answers as permanent identity statements. Some childhood dreams are modest. Others are unrealistic. Many reflect expectations rather than true interests. As life shapes us, sometimes painfully, reality becomes clearer. We may discover that we do not have the talent required for a dream we once held. Or we may realize that passion alone cannot support a sustainable life. This realization can be bitter, but it is also freeing. The key insight Adam Grant offers is simple and powerful. A career is something you do. It is not a declaration of who you are. When you adopt this mindset, you become more open. You allow yourself to explore different paths. You begin to uncover potential that was hidden beneath rigid definitions. This perspective is deeply practical, and it carries tremendous value. Toward the end of the book, Adam Grant encourages all of us to schedule regular checkups, not just for our health, but for our careers and other areas of life. You might ask yourself questions like these: when did I first become interested in the work I am doing now? How have I changed since then? Have I reached a point where there is nothing new left to learn in my current role? If so, is it time to consider a new direction? Regular checkups give you permission to review past commitments. They introduce healthy doubt. They help you question decisions that once felt certain. What you discover during this process can release you from limiting environments. It can help you become a better version of yourself. Rethinking is not only about updating knowledge or opinions. It is also a tool for living more fully. To close, let us reflect on what this book truly offers. It dives deeply into cognitive errors, biases, and blind spots. It provides tools that help you recognize why changing your mind matters. It challenges you to step outside the comfort of old beliefs. It encourages growth through discomfort. The book blends engaging stories with solid theory across learning, sports, research, and writing. It shows clearly how the practice of rethinking can be applied to everyday life and work. This book is for everyone. Whether you are a student, an employee, a leader, or simply someone who wants to think better. If you care about understanding your beliefs, questioning assumptions, and improving decision-making, this book offers real value. Think Again is not just about thinking differently. It is about choosing to live better.